VLANs are numbered from 1 to 4, or 9 to 4 for each VDC. All ports that you have configured as switch ports belong to default VLAN. When you first bring up the switch as a layer 2 device, the default VLAN
uses only default values, and you cannot create, delete, or suspend activity in the default VLAN. You create a VLAN by assigning a number to it. You can delete VLANs and move them from the active operational state to the suspended operational state. If you attempt to create a VLAN with an existing VLAN ID, the device goes into the VLAN submode but does not create the same VLAN again. Newly created VLAN are used until layer 2 ports are assigned to the specific VLAN. All the ports are assigned to VLAN 1 by default. Depending on the range of the VLAN, you can configure the following parameters for VLAN. Set the default VLAN.
VLAN name, VLAN state, shut down or not shut down when you delete a specified VLAN. The port associated to that VLAN becoming active and no traffic flows. When you delete a specified VLAN from a trunk port, only that VLAN is shut down. Traffic continues to flow on all the other VLANs through the trunk port.
However, the system retains all the VLAN to port mapping for that VLAN. And when you re-enable or recreate the specified VLAN, the system automatically reinstates all the original ports to that VLAN. The static MAC addresses and agent time for that VLAN are not restored when the VLAN's high availability for VLANs. The software supports high availability for both stateful and stateless restarts. As during a cold reboot for VLANs, for the stateful restarts, the software reloads the supervisor module.
You can upgrade or downgrade the software seamlessly when you use VLANs. See the Cisco Nexus 7000 series and XOR's high availability and redundancy guide. Release 5X for complete information on high availability features. Virtualization support for VLAN. The software supports virtual device context and VLAN configuration and operation on local is the VDC. No Cisco Nexus 7000 series and XOR's virtual device context configuration guide. Release 5X for complete information on VDCs and assigning resource. Each VLAN must have all of its ports in the same VDC. If you do not have enough resources allocated to the VDC, the software returns an error message. When you create a new VDC, the device automatically creates a new default VLAN. VLAN 1 and internally reserves VLANs for device use.
You can reuse the same numbers for VLANs in different VDCs. One or more VLANs can be associated with a role. The corresponding interfaces will also be subjected to the same check. For instance, if a role is allowed to access VLAN 1, then that role also has access to the interfaces that have that VLAN. If an interface does not have the VLAN associated with the role, an interface is not accessible to that role. Prerequisites for configuring VLANs.
VLANs have the following prerequisites. You must be logged on to the device. If necessary, install the advanced services license. Enter the desired VDC. Ensure that you have allocated enough resources for that VDC. See the Cisco Nexus 7000 series and XOR's virtual device context configuration guide. Release 5X for information on creating VDCs and allocating resources. You must create the VLAN before you can do any modification of that VLAN.
Guidelines and limitations for configuring VLANs.
VLANs have the following configuration guidelines and limitations. The maximum number of VLANs per VDC is 4094. You can reuse VLAN ID numbers in different VDCs. For example, you can have VLAN 10 in default VDC and a completely separate VLAN 10 in a newly created VDC, such as VDC 2. You can configure a single VLAN or a range of VLANs. You cannot create, modify, or delete any VLANs reserved for internal use. VLAN 1 is the default VLAN. You cannot create, modify, or delete this VLAN. VLAN 416 to 494 are always in the active state and always enabled. You cannot suspend the state or shut down these VLANs. See the Cisco Nexus 7000 series and Exos interfaces configuration guide release 5x for information on assigning layer 2 interfaces.
Processor trunk ports, all interfaces are in VLAN 1 by default. If you are familiar with the Cisco iOS CLI, be aware that the Cisco and Xcos commands for this feature might differ from the Cisco iOS commands that you would use. Creating and deleting a VLAN CLI version. You can create and delete all VLANs except the default VLAN and those VLANs that are internally allocated for use by the device. Once a VLAN is created, it's automatically in the active state. When you delete a VLAN, ports associated to that VLAN become inactive. Therefore, no traffic flows and the packets are dropped on trunk ports. The port remains open and the traffic from all the traffic from all of the VLANs except the delete VLAN continues to flow. If you create a range of VLANs and some of these VLANs cannot be created, the software returns a message listing the failed VLANs and all the other VLANs in the specified range. Or create 8 VLANs in the specified range. Or create 8 VLANs.